The Fabelmans. Easily one of my most anticipated films of the year. The Fablemans is everything I was looking for in a movie. What I think makes a good movie, the kind of movie I could see myself making, and the kind of movie that by the end of it, I realized I didn't just want to watch it, I needed to watch it. I didn't make a video for West Side Story last year, which was directed by Spielberg, but if you read my review, you got a glimpse of what I think of Steven Spielberg, or at least know it made my top 10 list before it got nominated for the several Academy Awards, which will, without happening again with this movie. If and what it could win in the Oscars is another piece of guessing or whatever for another time. But right now, I gotta talk about Steven Spielberg and his newest movie. I personally never think of what my favorite director is. There are directors I admire and look up to, including him. My list of favorite movies just vary. I don't think I've seen many great directors' entire filmographies to compare and contrast. But what makes Spielberg my personal favorite director, or at least one of them, is what he did do compared to everyone else at the time did, and today, is that he bridged the gap of old and new. He grew up with the classics he loved and brought new classics for the next generation people still talk about to this day. And I'm not saying it's just based on popularity, because every movie he's done has redefined the genre it's come from. Or most of them at the very least. I mean, every movie he's made, he's brought new life into it. Like Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Indiana Jones trilogy, E.T., The Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan, Poltergeist. Yeah, I know he didn't technically get the directing credit, but reading about it, I'm like, yeah, of course this is his movie, not Tobe Hooper. And what I think is objectively, not personally, the best movie of all time, Schindler's List. Each movie has done something for people of all ages that's summing up one thing from each, or trying to simplify what he's done into one sentence couldn't do justice, and I shouldn't do, since so much can be said for everything he's done. While his movies from the 21st century might not have left the same impact as his 20th century movies, he's still proven to this day how to make movies that are heartfelt, work of art, and entertaining for all, if not many. Now, his filmography isn't perfect, but his work as a director is shown to this day through his love and passion for film from both art and heart, and that's how I feel about this movie so much. The Fabelmans is Spielberg's film about his life, and sure, while right now many famous directors are making movies based on their childhood and how they come to love the film, or, you know, become who they are now. Did I write the film instead of film? Anyway, Spielberg does what he does best. Breathe new life into something people are familiar with, and give them something they might not have known they needed to see. Written by Spielberg and Tony Kushner and directed by Spielberg, comes a movie that I needed to see right now more than ever. It follows Sam Fabelman, played by Gabriel LaBelle, Zaoryon Francis-DeFord as him as a child, but Gabriel LaBelle plays him in his teen years, who grows up with a love for making movies more than anything, except for family with his father Burt, played by Paul Dano, a computer engineer who is working on groundbreaking technology which causes them to move from New Jersey to Arizona with his wife Mitzi, played by Michelle Williams, his sister, and sisters, and Burt's business partner and friend Bennie, played by Seth Rogen, who acts like the goofy uncle for the family. Growing up, Sam struggles to figure out how to balance his love for movies and his family with change, sacrifice, and struggle to come between his passion for film and watching his family to just be happy. Even more, hardship falls on Sammy, as does his parents due to prejudice, commitment, loyalty, and so much more. By the end, Sammy will have to discover what it's going to take to do what he loves, and his family members have to do the same for themselves. I love this movie. I love this movie. I was afraid I wouldn't like this movie, which is why I watched the bad movie for this. And it's not only a film based on the real life of one of my favorite directors, but it's about a young Jewish filmmaker with a family he loves and responsibility towards them while doing what he wants. And by the end of the movie, he's at the same, I won't spoil it, but let's just say he's at the same place or age I am in my life. And it is hard to not be biased against the film when I could just see myself in so many scenes in the movie. And thinking if I weren't me watching the movie, like if I wasn't the kind of person who this movie was meant for, would I still enjoy the movie if I was just a casual viewer who didn't even know who Spielberg was? I couldn't say this was like my childhood, but I'll get more into this later. Right now, I'm going to talk about what I loved about the movie. From its opening, with Sam's first time going to the movies as a kid and wanting to recreate what he saw on the camera, a clear contrast between his mother and father as people and parental figures, continuing to make movies as he grows up, and so much more. So to the end, so many scenes in this movie breathe life and heart. The movie's heart comes from the father, the mother, and the son's dynamic, with his mother being so loving and supportive of Sam's passion, while the father sees it more as a hobby and not as important. This stems from how the mother and father are both in different places in their lives, with the father happy with where he is and what he gets to do, while the mother isn't and is unsure what she wants is something she's willing to sacrifice for herself against what's best for her family. The acting from everyone is great. Gabriel LaBelle is so honest with his performance of Sam, ranging from trying to not show emotion to letting all his emotion out. Michelle Williams gives one of the best performances of the year as this very enthusiastic and loving mother, and her personality has to clash with her reality and choices as time goes on. Paul Dano isn't as good as her, but by the end also gives a formidable performance. Even Seth Rogen gives probably the best performance of his career, which I know might not be a surprise or mean much because he's Seth Rogen, but he does, and trust me, they definitely did the best they could with Seth Rogen. Now, Judge Hirsch was in the trailer, and he doesn't get that much screen time, but what he does get, he also gets 100% in it for an essential scene in the film. The movie deals with anti-Semitic bullies that, while maybe on a personal level, I would have wanted more time to explore the subject because I'm Jewish, but that's not really what the movie is about. It's about love and passion, how love sometimes isn't what we think it is, where people see it as compared to you, and the passion of doing what you love and how far you would go with it or not go enough with it because it's what you love to do, but you know you have to face yourself in reality. The second to last scene in the movie was so similar to where I am right now in my life, it brought me to tears to how close it was for me. But, you know, the ending shot is something I did hear about, not with spoilers or anything. Like, I didn't hear anything about how is this movie gonna end. It was just more I heard this was the perfect ending shot for Spielberg's career. And what I thought it would be isn't what I guessed, but what was, it was something something I needed to see, something to smile at, something that made you left feeling satisfied. And again, without spoilers, it perfectly ended the film coming full circle with its self-contained story and Spielberg's career in general. Is the movie perfect? No. As much as I love the movie, I can't pretend it's perfect. But the little things that weren't done right because what it does get right was fantastic, it could have brought down the whole movie. The transitions from scene to scene aren't great. It can feel like we're going from one scene to the next without a good flow or enough time for the impact of the scene to last, but it did impact the story in ways I didn't think of, and I can't really elaborate without spoilers. Sam's sisters in the movie aren't really developed that great. It's not about them, so it makes sense, and it's not like they're nothing characters, but he does have like one scene in particular with one of his sisters that if he did it with the other sister, it made no difference. In some ways, the movie can feel less like we're watching someone's journey and more like a series of memories, but what makes this all work is, once again, the passion and love from its writing to its characters. My father and I both went to go see the movie, and while I definitely identified with Sammy in one way, he identified with the characters in his own way, which I won't say because, you know, that's his business, not mine. But anyone from a loving family can relate to this family, and how anyone from the mother, the father, or son can relate to the change both positively and negatively. Maybe this affected me personally in one way because of what Sam's passion is, but that's what makes the writing so great. I would think with a movie about a person who loves movies, Sammy goes to see movies all the time, but that's not the case. And I think I would have felt cheated because if it not had enough time given for me to see how Sam grows to understand filmmaking, loving movies to help make up his identity. But the passion Sammy does have for making films itself is relatable and understandable, where even if you don't care for something the same way as another does, you can understand how passionate they are about it, and that you should support them for how much they clearly love it. Hell or high water where it might lead for them in their lives, that's what they love to do. His love for movies is that in some ways it's an escape and a way to express himself. He can't separate himself from what he loves to do, and it can be horrifying to not know if you can be the same person as you are without that passion in your life, contrasting with his parents and other family members. Maybe I am biased for why it speaks to me personally, but I always wanted to make a movie like this. And seeing a story that feels honest, real, and important, I needed to see this movie to understand how life is going to work. And with how the movie ends, I left the movie feeling like a changed person, because like every great Spielberg film, it comes out at the right time for people to see something they know in another way they never thought of. But for anyone who has loved something or someone in their life, they need to see it to know how everything else. They need to see it because that's how he sees it. everything else, I mean the cinematography, the score, the visuals, Spielberg remains one of the best directors to this day, bringing me one of, if not my favorite film of the year. So thank you. Thanks for sharing your story with us. I give The Fabelmans a 9.5 out of 10.